Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that lemon light city, sweet home Chicago. 2 is 4, 4 4 6. Come on, baby, now get your business fixed. Come on, honey, don't you?
Hi there, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine with the greatest cameraman around, Sonny Hirsch, and your host, Avi Myers.
Thank you, Marty. Avi Myers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. Tell us up on the web at www.ntnm.org, communitypolicingcaps24.org. Excuse me, allergies. For the next few weeks, you're not going to see the usual Marty Levinsons in the beginning. Sorry about that. We're doing data recovery on the hard drive that contains memorable Marty Levinsons from members of Congress all the way down to ordinary people. And hopefully that we'll be able to recover all that data, among others. There are other ways to do it, but that would be the simplest. And I want to thank Sonny Hirsch for his efforts to get that done. One of my absolute favorite guests, because if anybody's got great stories, he does. And I don't think I've ever really had a bad phone conversation with him, except maybe once, but that wasn't even so bad either. And I want to congratulate him 2 weeks late, albeit, but he's on the year here, on his 90th birthday. One of the most colorful people you'll ever meet in Chicago. And that is the one, the only, Ed McElroy.
Thank
Ed,
you.
how are you?
Good, thank God. I'm delighted to be here as usual.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Share the air with many of your fine listeners, especially here in the north side of Chicago. As you know, I do TV shows in Chicago, and I also do TV shows in the south suburbs, which I do the ones in Chicago out of 322 South Green, and then I do the shows in Homewood. That goes from 95th Street down to Bourbonnais. So
yeah, that's more your neighborhood. Huh?
Well, I live out there in Oak Lawn, so that would cover into me, and I see that more than I see my show in Chicago. But I've enjoyed it.
You know they're moving in Chicago. They're moving to 1309 Wood.
I'll probably get lost going over there. But in fact, I'll have to get you over there in not too distant future. We'll send an ambulance for you. Or
I'd be happy. No, I can get there. I know how to get there.
Okay. Okay.
So, no, it's, you know, as a matter of fact, I used to do, well, at one point in time, I used to get all my clothing on Roosevelt Road.
Oh, sure.
Okay, I mean, now those places aren't there anymore. And
we used to go to Chernon's, too.
It's exactly, you know, I had to go to Chernon's.
Yeah.
I've got size 14 feet. I'll never forget when I first moved into West Rogers Park, my mother sent me to the store Four Cones to buy shoes. I'm 16 years old. I walk into this store. The salesman looks at me. He says, "Those are the shoes George Washington crossed the Delaware in. We don't carry your size. Get out of there." So, yeah, Chernon's was the only place in those days that carried my size.
Yeah, on the north side of 12th Street. All those clothing stores and things like that.
Yeah, my uncle used to work at Meyerson's. After he retired for 2 whole weeks, having his own clothing store for 55 years.
Yeah.
Then he went to work. There were a lot of good stores down there. Sinofsky, Meyerson.
Yeah. And then we can't forget Manny's. In fact, I had the young Manny, I think his name might be Dan, lives up here on the north side of Chicago. He's sort of taken in charge, and I had him on one of the shows last week, and he's about 34 years old and married, has a couple of kids, and they've added 1,500 square feet more now to Manny's. They're not open on Sundays, but I think in the very near future, Manny's might be open on Sunday. But
I read the story in the Trib. They're thinking about it.
Yeah.
And by the way, Manny's is also consistently one of the 5 best locations for Jewish Chicago.
Oh, sure.
Because we've distributed as many as 600 issues.
Sure.
At a time through Manny's, and all the Jewish judges and lawyers, they all look for it over there. As a matter of fact.
Oh, sure. But you ought to have the kid on the show here. He's about 34 and really a sharp young kid, very intelligent, very a lot of laughs and stuff like that. And he started washing dishes and sweeping the floors, and he did the hard way, so no one can say, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Which I remember I first went on the radio. I started with Bob Elson, radio-wise. Bob is in the Hall of Fame now. And then I went on to WJOB in Hammond, and I spent 3 years there in WJOB, and even sometimes now I think, what am I doing here? You know, a kid like I'm from back of the yards on the south side of Chicago, and you know, we usually join the police department, the fire department, or get a job somewhere with the city, or you know, we don't go on radio or TV. And
you got too much flair not to.
Yeah, and so I went out there and spent a few years in Hammond, then came in with Eddie Hubbard on the Chesterfield show for 1 year. Then I went over to WJJD, and in 1960 to 70, I spun records there from in the morning, and then the station went country, and Stan Scott and myself stayed there. Everybody else got fired. Then I went into news, sports, and PR for the station. Then I found myself sort of going all over the country because we're owned by Plow Pharmaceutical, and we had stations in Memphis and a few other places. And I got around Washington quite a bit. And then in 60 and 70, I got into the field of public relations pretty much too. And it's in the meantime, I'd been elected National Commander of the Catholic War Veterans of the United States.
Well, congratulations.
And prior to that, I was Commander of the state of Illinois.
Congratulations.
And the night I came down as National Commander, my wife says, well, Commander, what's the next move? I said, Mommy, let me promise you something. I'll never run for a public office. I'm going to run my friends. I put up with so much hooey and things like that that I thought, you know, so I've been running my friends lately for, especially on the judicial side. I've been very active. And sometimes other offices. But what's pretty tough now is that my friend Dick Elrod died last year. My friend Neil Hardigan now is on a walker. And my friend Morgan Finley's been in a wheelchair.
Wait, Neil Hardigan?
Yes, Neil Hardigan.
Oh, I knew him. He was next door over here in Rogers Park. We were very friendly.
He was the committeeman. And they had a birthday party for me a few weeks ago. I knew Neil was on a cane, but he walked into my birthday party on a walker, and sort of made me feel a little sad to see that. And Morgan Finley's been in a wheelchair, a former clerk of the circuit court and senator. So I go out and I give him communion, and I'm a Eucharistic minister in my church, and I give him communion. But with Elrod going, Hardigan there, and Finley, and I was the older of the bunch, but they sort of listened to me. And it's, I can't imagine, I just turned 90 years of age, and you know, you think, not 60, not 70, not 80, 90, and I married 60 years.
That's great.
And when I got married, Police Commissioner Tim O'Connor was my best man. And my wife said to me, well, how come you're getting an older man like that? I said, well, he's my best friend, Commissioner O'Connor. And Captain Frankie Pape was an usher. He was quite a guy within the Chicago Police Department. So it's been a very active life with me. I've enjoyed it immensely. And we had a funny thing at our wedding. It was 1955, and 2 weeks before I was getting married, May 7th, Martin Kennelly had lost to Dad Daly.
Former mayor of Chicago.
I call him Dad Daly. And Kennelly was from the south side where my mother was, from Bridgeport. And my wedding was 2 weeks after Kennelly had lost to Daly, and Dad Daly was going to be an usher at my wedding. And my mother said, well, no, Mayor Kennelly, Edward, has to be at your wedding. Well, I had to do what my mother said, because my father died when I was 4 years old. We were 4 and 10. My dad at an early age, and my mother took over. And I said, Mother, we'll work it out. So Mayor Kennelly came to the Mass, and Dad Daly came to the reception. That was good politics, you know.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about, and we can get back to, I want to, there's more stuff, we'll talk about your days with the White Sox, too.
Sure.
But I really want to talk about first, at least in the first part of the show, the upcoming Chicago Police Memorial Foundation event, September 16th.
Yes, our boss is Phil Klein, the former police superintendent, and he was really a tremendous policeman, too. People forget always the superintendent, but he was really a tremendous policeman. In fact, Superintendent Klein worked 10 years in narcotics, and I could never do that. People are offering you $10,000, $200,000, all that cash stuff and things like that. That'd be pretty difficult. But Klein was there for 10 years, and he ended up being superintendent, and now he's president of our police memorial.
And by the way, I want to tell you, to me, I've been following the police for quite a long time. I mean, ever since I've been following the paper since I was like 8 years old.
Sure.
He is far and away my favorite police superintendent of all time. And when I taught, and being a member of the police board of the 24th district and a beat facilitator, not to mention I've got a history. I've been a police reporter for many years too for different papers. There are so many policemen that have told me there has never been a better superintendent than Phil Klein.
Well, I can't say that because my best man was Commissioner O'Connor. And
well, I can understand.
I go back
to
to Leroy Martin. I was a pallbearer for Leroy Martin a year and a half ago, and Matt Rodriguez was at my recent birthday party. But I'm saying that Klein was just such a tremendous policeman. He's head there. But we're having this memorial, the usual monument, just by Soldiers Field. It's on Wednesday, September 16th.
And where exactly? That's between Soldiers Field and
the outer drive, and let's say maybe Lake Michigan.
Yeah, when you're coming from, if you're coming from the north, it's something you'll see when you're walking to Soldier Field for a Bears game. You can't miss it.
Were you ever one of our readers?
No, I've never been.
Do you want to be one of the readers?
Yes, about time you asked me.
Okay, you'll be one of the readers. We have I think 570.
And by the way, I checked my calendar too. It's the day after the Jewish holiday, so it's a safe day for me.
Okay.
Because one year you asked me, it was a Jewish holiday.
Okay.
But this is the day after Rosh Hashanah. Even though, the fast will be over by the time the event starts.
Okay.
So I'd love to.
Yeah, it's very nice.
I want to show my support for this.
I think we've had about 575 police officers killed in the history of the Chicago Police Department. And a reader's job is to do 10 names, and it moves real fast. Does it last 3 hours? No, it does not. But, Phil Klein has done a great job, and Art Hannes is president of our association.
Great guy.
And Art Hannes would be here, but he recently had sort of a heart operation, and then all of a sudden a little more happened than he anticipated. So then he's in rehab at this present time. Otherwise, Art Hannes would be up here appearing on the show.
Yeah, and also somebody you've arranged for us in the past is Bethany O'Reilly, who actually is one of my neighbors, lives about a block away.
Is that right?
Yeah, she literally, I could point to her house from the corner.
Okay.
So, no, she, as a matter of fact, the next street is named after her late husband who was killed in the line of duty.
One of our sergeants, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sergeant Philip O'Reilly. That's the honorary name for the next street.
She's not the president no more. We have we have a new president now. But to you people out there, kindly keep this in mind and call the Police Memorial Organization if you wish to be a reader, because you don't have to be a big deal to be a reader. If you think you can get up there and read 10 names, we'll be more than glad to have you.
One of the things I want to point out too is let's talk about. I know you're not Arthur Hannes or Phil Klein, and you're not as involved in the actual operations, but let's talk about what they do for the widows and orphans of the Chicago Police.
Well, that's a good question. It's unbelievable what they do. FOP is the same way. What they do with the police officer killed on the line of duty. As an example, if say police officers killed on the line of duty, we've been very fortunate. I think it's maybe a couple of years now. But right then, within a day, any of these police organizations, they're right there knocking on the door. They're paying off the house. They're going to send the kids to grammar school, high school, college. If it's not this, if it's not the Memorial Fund doing it, it's the FOP doing it, or it's the other out. They do.
Yeah, when Phil Klein was here last year, he told me within a day they immediately give them a check for $60,000.
That's just one organization.
Yeah.
We don't want to. I assure you, killing, and it's so tough out there in the street now. As police officers, and as we're not getting the respect because I'm in the cars and things like that different times, and the way some people treat them. Just to treat a person, but with a man with a star and who he represents and a gun, and he's just supposed to say nothing. It's tough on the street, and it's tough being a policeman. I think we'll maybe have a little over 1,200 or a little over 12,000 on the job, but it's a tough go, honestly. But these organizations take care of those widows and kids, and we get nice letters and things like that, for what they've done, and because it's really tough, no matter how gutsy you are and this and that, to knock on that door to see that widow and this and that. I don't care how tough you are. It's it's just so difficult, but they're not forgotten. And so you see the letters, from the kids, this and that they got this education. An education they never would have gotten, but it was a tough price to pay.
Yeah, no question. And yeah, they do pay for all the rest of the schooling for all the kids, and they take care of all the funeral and burial expenses and all the rest of it. And the Chicago Police Memorial Foundation really does some great things, and it's a highly worthwhile organization. And I'll tell you, in these days when people are nuttier than fruitcakes and attacking the police like crazy, they don't begin to appreciate.
Disrespectful.
Disrespectful is a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
You know, they are out of their minds. It's like some 6'8", 300-pound guy attacks a police officer. He's not supposed to draw a weapon and try to defend himself. Mm-hmm. You know, especially if the guy's a drug-crazed whatever with a record as long as Will Chamberlain's arm.
And it's a
or
certain
maybe
area,
even
too.
Bowl.
You know, they'll have on the southeast side of Chicago or on the west side. You know, now and then we get a rush maybe on North Michigan Avenue there, but it's tough out there. It really is. And
you know, right in our own neighborhood, and I saw this on a recent thing from a recent event they had. Officer Jim Mullen. You know, he went on a domestic call.
Yes.
And he got shot in the face.
Shot through the door, I think, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, I could have the location.
Right here on the north side.
Right. It was literally in this police district that we're in right now. It was about 1.5 miles, 2 miles from here. And he is a quadriplegic for life. He needs constant attention.
It hasn't stopped him, though.
No.
He's full steam ahead.
He's a great guy, and I know his wife, Athena, very well from the Community Policing Office of the 24th District. And Mullen's applesauce, which is now kosher, by the way.
Okay.
And
gee, I'm glad of that.
And I got to tell you, because you know what, he was over here. We couldn't get him in the house because we're not. He needs wider than what we have, because his wheelchair is also connected to permanent oxygen equipment. Yeah. We've tried to have him back because our good Irish neighbors across the street, you know, they don't have stairs or a ramp, and they have a wider industrial door. We're going to try to get him back on, but at the time he gave us applesauce, but it wasn't kosher, then I couldn't try it. But my neighbors told me that was the best applesauce they've ever had.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's good. I like applesauce.
They said it was that good. I like it too.
Applesauce and graham crackers.
That's an interesting combination, but then again, you don't want to know what I put together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, I mean, these guys have dangerous stuff. I mean, a guy's just going to break up a domestic disturbance. You know, when he's a quadriplegic for life, and that affects everything, his family, his wife, and I give Athena all the credit in the world for doing everything she could to help him and stand up for him. And, you know, they have an extraordinarily dangerous job. Even if it might seem like they're loafing over at the 7-Eleven, the second or whatever it is, you know, they still got a radio attached to them. If there's a call, they got to go out on the call. That's all there is to it. And you never know if that simple little call might be the last call you ever make. You never know that.
You know, I remember I was in the Air Corps in World War II, and I was a cadet, and we were on the shooting range. And the sergeant walked up to me and handed me this conglomerate. I didn't know what it was at first. And I said, "Sergeant, what is this?" He says, "This is a Thompson machine gun."
Oh.
I said, "Well, what am I to do with it?" He says, "Well, if you don't learn how to kill with it, you're going to be killed." So I learned how to kill with the machine gun, but here you are at age 18, how things change, and you know, different parts of life, and you know, and then you're back. You go in service, World War II at 18. I'm back home at 20 on the corner, thinking, "What do I do tonight?"
Wow.
Yeah, how things.
Well, it might
change.
not be as exciting as the night with the Thompson machine gun.
Oh yeah, that was it. I can see that sergeant giving it to me, and what do I do with this? He told me in short order. And now it's a matter of forget the machine gun. Now preserve my own life. Yeah. You know.
Yeah. People don't understand. You know, matter of fact, one of the candidates at last week's Republican debate, you know, made which to me is an obvious statement. And he talked about war. You know, and armies are, you know, when they're put into action, kill people. That's what they kill and they break. That's what they're supposed to do. Yeah.
You know, it's relative to that debate. Trump, he's one of the candidates.
Right.
Any person that has the nerve to say that a prisoner of war is not a hero, to me, ought to be shot. And that's what he said.
He is beneath contempt.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever talked to a prisoner of war. I had a few friends that were prisoner of war, and it was It was absolutely terrible. But anyone that even served our country, you can't say they're not heroes, because it's unbelievable to be in service. I mean, there you are and this and that, and you're up in an airplane, people are shooting at you. You're down on the ground, people are shooting at you. But to say, he happened to say the senator was not a hero. Any person being a prisoner of war, I had a couple friends over 2 years. They came back weighing 100 pounds. And they're not heroes? Man.
And that's not to mention some of the exceptional things that McCain braved through and did, when he was a prisoner of war. He refused to take an early release due to his rank because he wanted to stay with his men.
That's right. 5 or 6 years, I think.
Yeah.
And he's a fine man. I've talked to him several times, and I've had him on the air years ago and things. But that's a bad, Mr. Trump, that's a bad thing to say. You'll regret it the rest of your life.
Yeah, I just hope his ratings go to about -2.
Well, he's funny right now. You get a kick out of him right now. You laugh at a guy like him.
I actually, my hair was curling, and I got very straight hair. But I'll tell you, the guy, just to tell the crowd, I mean, the two debates, the two people I liked the most out of that Republican debate, and the first one, Carly Fiorina, really cleared the day. But in
the governor of Ohio.
That's exactly who I'm going to, John Kasich.
Pretty sharp. Yep.
He's an adult. He's reasonable.
Yep.
He shows compassion. The way he handled the gay issue, I am for traditional marriage, but he actually attended a gay wedding for his friend because his friend is entitled to his support and his love no matter what he does. And, it's the same thing on other issues. He has a record. You have to be able to work with the other party. Mm-hmm. If you don't work, one of the things people don't realize, it's like when you're successful in politics, it means you're able to work with the other side. This country's pretty much split depending on the year, who's Democrat, who's Republican. You've got to have the ability to be friends, and that's the trouble with this president. He never befriended the other side. As much as I did not like George Bush invited all the Democratic senators and congressmen to the White House, showed them perks, all the rest of it, made friends out of them. You have to get to know people. You get to know people, you have conversations and all the rest of it. And you know what? Why should we talk about politics when we could talk about your days as a White Sox bullpen catcher?
Well, maybe I say first, though, I
Sure.
have pictures in my home with 9 presidents.
Wow.
President Truman was the first, and President Obama was the last one. So I drove Jack Kennedy around a little in 1970 when people didn't know him, and Obama the same way. And I felt Obama an extremely high-class man who came out of, was he qualified to be president? No. He would have been a fine senator, but I think he needed a little more seasoning. But he's really, you couldn't beat a nicer man. But as far as our White Sox concerned, I was batting practice and bullpen catcher down there in 1943. Luke Sewell was the main catcher at that time, and Jimmy Dykes was the manager. But when I come up and down the runway to the clubhouse, people would want my autograph. And I thought, I'm really nothing. So after, a few times, I always call Dykes Mr. Dykes. He always called me Edward. I said, Mr. Dykes, yes, Edward. I explained to him about this and that, and he says, Edward, as long as you are in that uniform, you're somebody. Because when I come out after the game, they thought I was the bat boy. But when I was in that uniform going back and forth, they thought I was somebody. So what Jimmy Dykes said to me, he always told me too, kid, guts count, not size. Because Jimmy Dykes was about 5'7.5". He was a fine infielder. And as a catcher, funny thing, I became a catcher because I didn't like grounders. I'm a lot safer being out there playing shortstop or second base than catching. But it was great. I enjoyed it very, very much. And then I went on to school. Two things in life: I wanted to be a priest or a ball player, and I didn't make any of them. But when I was away in school, I was in the seminary, and I was a catcher on the team. And then when I went to college with...
They would have been the best of both worlds, I guess.
Yeah. And the college, when they would play, I would, if it wasn't a league game, I would be the catcher. And a guy named McGill Hodges was the third baseman.
Wow.
And then he went to first in the big leagues, number 14. And his brother Charlie was left-handed. And left-handed pitchers are inclined to be wild. catcher, they really work you. And he's a little guy, too. He has sort of this little crazy complex. He had me all over the place, but it was a lot of fun. And back in '42, I was getting hit at home plate, and you're catching. You got to either chew gum or drink water or chew tobacco. You chew gum, you got to chew a whole pack at a time. Well, then you lose your teeth, maybe. Yeah. Water, so you got to chew tobacco. So when you get hit at home plate occasionally and you swallow tobacco, I assure you it doesn't taste too good and things. But
my dental problems are from the bubble gum and baseball cards, by the way. And I'm not kidding.
But they used to hit me at home plate, boom. And I went down to White Sox in '43, and I was explaining to Money Rule, who was our coach, and a genius in baseball. He said, "Don't stand here. Just stand like this to the left. And when they come in, you give them the glove, and you punch them in the ribs, and you go them like this. Don't stand here, So when he came in, then some of the coaches or manager started complaining that I was beating up guys.
Oh.
But I'd got a couple of broken ribs in the past, but that was it. But just turn to the left, punch him here, whack him here, and throw him that way. It got me ready for married life. But I've been married 60 years, so it was a pretty good tactic.
Yeah, no, that it's funny because I know a little bit about I did do some reading when I was a kid about what used to be. I know Ty Cobb was a vicious player.
I heard the name.
Pardon?
Rogers Hornsby, I got to know a little.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're a tough guy.
358 lifetime average.
What, 358?
358 lifetime. Ty Cobb was 367. And Ty Cobb actually hit as high as 424, which is the highest average of all time. Wow. Rogers Hornsby hit 420. And I think Rogers Hornsby to this day has the Cub record for highest batting average with the Cubs.
They were ahead of Ted Williams?
Yeah, 344 lifetime. Mm-hmm. And by the way, speaking of veterans and people who have distinguished service, he might have broken Babe Ruth's record if he hadn't spent 5 years in the armed forces during the prime of his career.
Mm-hmm. I have a baseball autograph by Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig that's been in, our family and I bet maybe 60 years. I keep going to sell it when I want to buy a new car.
Ted Williams, I was 8 years old when he hit his last homer. When he was 42 years old, he hit 329.
He served in 2 wars, and he could have got out of both of them. He was a flyer, too, with Bob Kennedy of the White Sox. Both of them did not have to go in the second time. They could have got out of it. And they never had to go overseas. They could have got into this and that, but both guys, Kennedy from the White Sox, third base, graduate of DeVille High School, lived out there in the Beverly area.
He was with the Cubs also. He was the manager, I believe.
He was with the White Sox, and then he became the general manager, and then he went to Oakland, and he was the manager there with Chuck Feeney, and he was there. He had a 2-year contract with Feeney, and his wife Claire, who came out of Riverside. He said, his last game of the season, I got to go up and say goodbye to Mr. Fidley, and I'll be talking to him. Came down about a half hour, and his wife Clara said, "What's wrong, Bob?" He said, "I've just been fired." He said, "What, do you have a 2-year contract?" "You just fired me."
Wow.
That was, if Feeney ever saw someone of his team give a baseball to someone, he'd make him pay $5. Now they give them out all the time.
Yeah, they're flipping it. It's great the way they do it now. We are running out of time, and I want to make sure I get all the contact information. First, I want to emphasize the Chicago Police Memorial Foundation annual event, Candlelight Vigil, is called, I believe.
Yes, right.
Okay, is
Wednesday?
Happening? Yeah, go ahead.
Wednesday, September 16th.
At approximately what time?
We get together first about 6, and we start the ceremony a little after 7 o'clock over by the lake. And we always pray to the good Lord that the weather will be okay, but I always bring a top coat.
Yeah. And it's right by Soldiers Field.
Yep.
And
just the east of the field.
Yeah, just east of the field.
Yeah.
And you can't miss it. And, it's to honor all the fallen officers, among other things. But I also want to tell you, he's Ed McElroy. Of course, I didn't realize he's only spent 43 or 42 years in the PR business.
Yeah.
So, and happy 90th again. If people want to contact that's 708-425-1616. I remember your number.
Any of your widows out there, yes.
Okay, real good. Ed McElroy, always a pleasure, always enlightening.
Thank you.
I want to wish you all the very best, and thank you for coming.
Shalom.
You too.
Shalom.
Thank you, Sonny. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.